What's up, good people? Welcome back to another Thursday Q&A with BA. And big shout out before we get started to at Each's. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. At EATCHS. We did a poll this week and asked about what would you guys like to see us talk about on this live this Thursday. And Each is actually commented and said how to make money with the new administration and policies, right? How to make money with the new administration and policies. And so I thought the question was profound and I want to get into it, right? I want to get into it. So what I come up with is 5 ways that you can make money with the new administration and policies. Now, before I even get into those 5, right, what you want to make sure you stay and hear all 5. I want to start by saying this, okay? We've never stopped making money regardless of who was in office. Okay. We've never stopped making money regardless of who is in office. And I'm going to tell you why when I get into these 5 specifically. But as a backdrop to getting into the 5, I just want to tell you that principles don't change. Administrations may, policies might, but principles don't change, right? And specifically, biblical principles definitely don't. And so I want to show you how we fundamentally make money regardless of what's going on in the economy, regardless of what's going on in administration, regardless of what's going on with policies. All right. Let me know in the chat really quick where y'all tuning in from. Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. And we're about to get into these 5. And as always, this is Q&A with BA. So put your questions in the chat and I'll make sure I get to them for sure. Shout out Alex in Miami. What's up, bro? What's up, bro? So let's get into it. Okay. Number one. Stop talking and start doing. If you want to learn how to make more money with new administrations and new policies, the first thing you got to do is stop talking and start doing. Broke people talk about ideas. Rich and wealthy people execute on ideas. Period. Okay. Here's the principle behind it. Proverbs 14:23. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. What does that mean? That means that for those of us that talk about our ideas are lending ourselves poverty at some point. But those of us that actually go hard and work on the ideas that we come up with, eventually it will bring a profit. Now, for some of you, you like, yeah, but man, I seem like I'm working hard right now. I get that. Okay. But this principle don't necessarily mean that you always gonna profit from the thing you're working on linearly, but it does mean that it's always going to profit for you. So here's what I'm saying when I say that. So there's another scripture, Romans 8:28, that says all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and been called according to his purpose. So when you look at a principle like Proverbs 14:23, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Whether you lost or won in whatever that you're working on, you're going to profit from it at some point. So, at one point in my career, when I was investing in real estate, I lost $500,000, right? And I worked really diligently in that process, although it turned into an undesirable outcome. Well, guess what? At some point later, when I started, after I made money, obviously, and then started to teach people all over the world how to invest in real estate, then not only did I get to profit from the loss that I endured, but other people got to profit from not having to go through the same mistakes that I once endured. So all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Okay. Another example, at some point when I started marketing myself online, right? Started my online business, I had to go through a tremendous amount of loss dealing with marketing companies, people that didn't know what they were doing, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I didn't know that they didn't know what they were doing. You can see how that could be a problem, right? But in result of that, right now this week, I'm helping business coaches, business owners, coaches, and consultants and freelancers grow their businesses online while avoiding the mistakes that I went out and had to make, right? But behind me is an illustration I'm gonna be showing tonight during our challenge about how to make $1 million working 70 days a year. Does anybody want to do that, by the way? Just curious. Let me know in the chat. But how to make $1 million working 70 days a year? How do I know that? Because I've done that. So all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. We got to stop talking about the things that we're going to do, and we got to get to doing them. Okay. Because the sooner you get to doing them, the sooner you're going to get the payoff and be able to profit from it. Okay. Number two, go all in. Go all in. Stop stopping short, right? The principle behind this is Colossians 3:23. Do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval, because you know that your reward and inheritance comes from the Lord. What does that mean? A lot of the time, whether we at work or in business, we don't give it our all, right? Our disposition is, I'm gonna go in, do as much as I need to do to collect the paycheck, but it's not always representative of going all out, right? I'm not staying here no extra couple hours today. I'm not, when I get home, my laptop is closed and I'm not putting no extra work in, right? All that's cool by society standards. I don't disagree with you. But when we're talking about how to make, the question at the start of the day was how to make money with new administration and new policies, I'm telling you, principally speaking, it don't matter whose administration or what policies are in place if you operate in these principles. Why? Because these principles allow for God to be in control in your life instead of other people. See, we may be governed on this side of heaven by a government, but we still serve a king at the end of the day who sits on the throne, and the world is his footstool. So if I operate in these principles, then I ain't never got to worry about who's in office or who seemingly is in control, because God is always in control. But what happens is when we start to succumb to the way in which the world operates, and we do just enough to get by and we do just enough to get paid, and then we start our businesses and we do just enough to serve our client, and we don't never go above and beyond to make sure that we get them a stellar experience, then yeah, we need to worry about who the administration is and what policies are and all of that. But I'm telling you that myself, my closest colleagues, and inside of our business, we don't have to worry about that. Why? Because we go all in. We go all in. We don't stop short. Do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval, because you know that your reward comes from the Lord. It don't come from that job, that the person whose name is on your check. God gave you the job to get the check. God gave you the business to get the clients. So you worried about getting clients, and God worried about you taking better care of the clients you already got. How about that? We don't have to worry about administration and policies. We have to worry about how we administer God's policies in our life. That's what we got to focus on. Number 3, we got to seek to serve. The more I add to others, the more God adds to me. How do I know that? Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. Seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. So what does that tell me? That I just got to seek to serve. Well, who do I serve? Everybody I come in contact with. Everybody I come in contact with. Whether it's the lady walking behind me that I get the door for at a random, walking into a place because I don't know who I'm holding the door open to for, whether it's the janitor that I catch eye contact with when I'm in my travels or at work or whatever, and I acknowledge them because nobody else acknowledges them, whether it's the person that needs to bend my ear for me to serve and help because of whatever they're going through on that particular day, whether it's the client that's sitting across from me and making sure that I'm focusing on getting something to them instead of getting something from them, right? If I get up every day and I seek to serve my assignment, I can't lose. Why? Because Scripture says, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. We don't need to get up and chase things. We need to get up and chase to serve. If we seek to serve, God already said, I got all the rest of it covered. Take care of my people. Remind them of me when they encounter you. Give me honor and glory through your behavior and the way in which you handle people and interact with people. Is this making sense? These are principles that have not changed for thousands of years. You never have to worry about money if you operate in these principles. We gotta get up and seek to serve. The more I add to others, the more God adds to me. And that ain't because I think so. It's because he says so. He says, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. Well, what's the things? All the stuff that we chasing every day. The money, the cars, the clothes. He like, I got that. I just need you to take care of the stuff that I need you to take care of. Serve my people. Take care of my people. Make sure you steward them well. Me and one of my colleagues were just talking last night about a client of his who they got a phenomenal brand. They got a big brand. They do millions of dollars on it with their online brand. And they're really good at like throwing events, right? And you know, he's working with them on this particular project, but he's gotten paused behind it because the rumor has started that they do really good at getting a bunch of people in on the front end, making a bunch of money, but then the back end is not so good. Which means that what? That's poor stewardship. God is blessing you with the ability to go out and acquire new customers, but then you're poorly stewarding over them. It's a penalty to that. Because for there's not a one side to anything. Everything, there's always is two sides to it, right? So if God is saying, if you seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and I'm gonna add all these things, then what do you think happens when you do the opposite of that? Hello? What do you think happens when you do the opposite of that? Oh yeah, them things will be taken away from you. So it's so interesting how we always looking at what we don't have, which I get it. That's a trick of the enemy. His job is to get us to focus on lack. So instead of us focusing on what we have, we always focus on what we want and what we don't have. But if you focus on what you don't have long enough, you're gonna lose what you did have because you ain't paying enough attention to it. And so I find it so interesting when I'm looking around on social media and I'm seeing all these people with their hair on fire, worried about Trump, worried about Kamala, worried about this, worried about that. And it's like, you worried about the wrong things. You govern yourself within the constructs of the government, but you act accordingly to what the king said to do. Because he rules the government. He supersedes the government. So that was number 3. This is number 4. You got to give up to go up. You got to give up to go up. You want to make more money, you got to give up to go up. What do I mean? Proverbs 11:24. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. This ain't something we talk about every day, is it? Everything on social media, everything in society is take, get, got. We don't talk about giving. We don't talk about looking out for those less than and less fortunate. We don't talk about we just don't talk about giving enough in general, right? Because I think giving is also two-sided. It's not just always giving down. I think you should also give up. You should honor those that make a significant contribution in your life. You should do things to let people know that they're of value in your life. But we definitely should take care of the least of these. Why? Because that's what the book said. I mean, I didn't make this stuff up, right? I just so happen to abide by it, and I just so happen to not have to ever worry about money. And I want everybody that listen to this to get to a point where you also don't have to worry about money, where you also don't have to, just because everybody else stressing out about the administration, that you also do the same thing. It's a waste of time and energy. I'm just telling you, because they're not in control. They're only in control if you let them control you. And I'm not saying that from a tyrant perspective. I'm saying that from it depends on how you operate in your life. What principles are you operating? We got to give up to go up. Some of y'all got a tremendous amount of wisdom, experience, knowledge. That's why I'm doing this challenge from purpose to profits this week, because there's too many people that's sitting on a ton of capacity, a ton of wisdom, knowledge, insights, abilities. We got to be able to give that. We got to share that with others, man. You know how many people out there are waiting for you to show up and share some type of, win or loss in your life that helps them? We all got stuff that happened to us, but it ain't happened to us. It happened for us. And it happened for us so that we can help somebody else with it. We got to be givers. We got to be looking to serve people. 2 Corinthians 9:6, right, says, those who sow sparingly shall also reap sparingly. Those who sow generously shall also reap generously. Are you sowing any seed anywhere? Because we can't be expecting a harvest in our life and we're not sowing seed. Where your treasure is, so your heart will be also. Like, what are you doing with your money? Are you always buying stuff? It's interesting. We spend so much time spending money on stuff to put on us instead of spending money on things to put in us. We spend a lot of time spending money on stuff to put on us instead of spending money on stuff to put in us. My biggest investment every year is always in myself. It's always in my personal development, my personal growth. Every year for the last at least 5 years, probably arguably the last 7 out of 10. My biggest investment is always that. Why am I telling you that? Not because I want you to buy anything from me, because I want you to buy something for you. I want you to start treating you like your number one asset. And if that be true, then you would invest most in it. Yes or yes? If you are truly your number one asset, wouldn't you invest most in it to take care of it, to steward it, to enhance it, right? If you went out and got a Rolls Royce, right? You would want somebody to come over and detail that thing frequently. You wouldn't want nothing out of place inside of it. You would want it waxed at all times, looking good at all times. You would want to look good while you getting in it, right? You would want the whole scene set at all times for it. So that ain't even an asset, that's a liability. So how about you? So what are you doing to make sure that you are at your very best so that others can glean from you being at your very best? The problem is a lot of the time we don't look beyond ourselves. We're not even thinking about who else gets to benefit from us being our best self. We're just thinking about ourselves. And if you're thinking about yourself only, then you always gonna struggle for money, worry for money, and always, because God blesses us to be a blessing, not for us to just hoard everything that he gave us. So that's number 4. We got to give up to go up. Number five, and I already done talked about this a little bit. Always be learning. Always be learning. Proverbs 26:12. There's more hope for a fool than people who think they are wise. What does that mean? There's more hope for a fool than people that think they are wise. See, some of the problem is when you hang out with people and you're in environments where you always the go-to person, you always seemingly know everything, everybody come to you for advice. The problem with being in those environments is it can actually distort your level of understanding of how much you truly know. What do I mean? Well, if you're around people that always make you seem like you know more than them, then you automatically think that you know a lot. But here's the interesting thing. The more that you learn, the more that you figure out how much you don't know. The more that I invest in myself and learn new things, the more I realize how much I don't know. It's the craziest thing, right? But it's a constant reminder that we need to always be evolving and growing. Why? Because Proverbs 26:12 says there's more hope for a fool than people who think they are wise. See, a fool know that they're a fool, right? But people who are self-absorbed and think they know everything don't even realize that they're a fool when they are. So this is a reminder that we got to always be learning. There's always more to learn. Hey, look, if you're concerned about how you make more money, you have to understand this first. The amount of money you make is directly proportionate to the level of knowledge you have. The difference between somebody making 100,000, 200,000, $1 million a year versus the one that's making 10 million is that they know some stuff you don't know. It's literally that simple. Because how they invest their 24 hours day in and day out, which is an even playing field for all of us, differs from how you invest yours. Why? Because they're investing theirs at a higher level. Why? Because they know things at a higher level. They're not making 10 times what you make necessarily because they're working harder. It's because they're working higher. So we gotta always constantly be learning, evolving, and growing and changing with the times so that we can also learn at a higher level and earn at a higher level. And again, I think some of the biggest problem we got right now today is that everything has become so transactional. Everything we look at is transactional. I'm gonna do this activity to get this check. I'm gonna do this to get this invoice. I'm gonna do, and we forget the fact that life ain't linear. And so we got to always be thinking of evolution and growth and becoming. That's the way God set this whole thing up to begin with. The first thing he told man was to be fruitful, do multiply, have dominion. So the first thing he told us to do was be. So a fruit is any living organism with a seed inside of itself. Where that's us. We got seed inside of us. Yes or yes. So what we're supposed to be doing in life is taking the seed of creativity that God put in us and making things manifest themselves outside of us to prove what he's put in us. So if you want to have more and do more, you have to become more. So you have to continuously learn and sharpen your skills and hone in on your gifts so that you can make a bigger contribution in the world, in the marketplace, at work, or wherever it is that you make your money. Just think about what I'm saying. If you fresh out of college, right? Let's just say you walk into corporate America. You fresh out of college, you don't get a VP position. Why? Because you haven't become the person yet. So they start you off as some entry level management at best, right? Supervisor of some sort. You ain't going from college to C-suite because they've already identified based on empirical data that there's a certain track that needs to happen before you would even be ready for such a thing. Same is true in business. You don't start a business and scale it. You got to first start it and learn it, put systems and processes and fundamentals in place so that as you scale, guess what? Now you're not the same person doing all activities, but you've documented processes so that new people can come in and do those same activities. So what does that mean? That means that evolution is one of the most important things for us as human beings in our lives. But we miss out on that. You know how I know we miss out on that? Because statistics show that the average college graduate reads 3 more books in their entire life. We pay somebody 6 figures to go to the institution to be taught how to go get a job. And then after we do that, we don't read but 3 more books the rest of our life and wonder why we stuck in rat races. When you peel back the layers of the onion, it make you cry. So just to recap, right? The essence of the conversation today was how to make more money with new administration and policies. And so what I'm doing right now, this video can live in perpetuity, be here for 50 years later. And I promise you, if you adopt these principles, these 5 principles that I gave you, you ain't never got to worry about administration, policies, or money. The first one is stop talking, start doing. Proverbs 14:23, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Okay. Number 2, go all in. Stop stopping short. Colossians 3:23, do all your work as if you're doing it for the Lord, not for man's approval, because you know that your reward is coming from the Lord. So that means that I don't measure whether or not I did a good job based on what they told me. I measure whether or not I did a good job based on what he tells me. Does that make sense? All right. Number 3, seek to serve. The more I add to others, the more God adds to me. Why? Because Matthew 6:33 says, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. Okay. Number 4, give up to go up. By the way, if you have not read the book Go Givers, I highly recommend you get that book. Go Giver is the name of the book. It's a phenomenal book that talks about this principle. Okay. Proverbs 11:24. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. God is blessing you with excess for you to be a blessing to others. So if you're not using that excess to do that, then he like, well, you don't need it. I could give it to somebody else that understands my principle. Okay. And number 5, always be learning. Proverbs 26:12 says, there is more hope for a fool than people who think they are wise, right? We can never be too full of ourselves. As I stated, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. The problem is for many of you, you stop learning and you surrounded yourself with a bunch of people that look up to you as the go-to person which makes you think you know more than what you know until you get around somebody that actually know more than you. You're like, dang, guess I didn't know that much. But that is the barrier by which is holding you back from earning more, becoming more, doing more, having more. These are principles. And I promise y'all, if you work them, money ain't going to be one of your concerns. Neither would it be the administration. And if it was, it'd be for other reasons. It won't be because you're trying to figure out what impact the government has, whether or not you collect a check. That won't be a issue for you if you operate in these principles. And with all that being said, true to form, this is Q&A with BA. And so if you guys got any questions, I want to hang around and field any of those. And at any time, you could always put those in, even as I'm talking. Okay. But again, shout out to at EATCHAS, I think is Eachus, who asked the question for this week, how to make more money with new administration and policies. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Any thoughts? Is anybody worried about what's going on with the administration? What industry should I start in? That's a good question. What industry should you start what in? What industry should you start what in? I just want to make sure that I answer this as accurately as possible. Is that Val? Ah, okay. Business real estate. So here's the thing, okay, as it pertains to real estate, is first figuring out like what is it that you want to accomplish. And when I say that, I mean this. So for some people, they're at a season of life where acquiring rental properties make the most sense based on the fact that they're trying to go out and create as much residual income as possible so that whenever they stop doing whatever they're doing, that they have more of a consistent revenue stream coming in. Okay. Now, for most, they would say, "Well, that's exactly what I want." But again, as I've cautioned previously, you still have to be sensitive to the fact that that's still a capital intensive strategy. Why? Because you need reserves, right? It's not so much that you can't go and buy a couple of them with an owner occupant loan and put 3.5% down FHA or 5% conventional. Getting in it is not the issue. Being able to have the reserves to maintain and deal with said issues or vacancy and all the rest of it if it's debt on it. So the reserves are important, especially if you want to grow a larger size portfolio, because as much as the portfolio scales, so do the problems, right? So that's one piece. The other piece is, and the reason why I stopped you, let me know. I believe your name was Val. I could be wrong, but let me know. I just want to make sure I got that right. The other piece is maybe you're in a situation where you want to take care of some debt elimination. So then fix and flip and wholesale could be great strategies. Why? Because those are active income strategies, right? So, and the beautiful part about that is, while some would say, well, flipping houses is capital intensive, yeah, but you don't need your capital. You could leverage money for cash flow as well, right? You could go out and borrow money from others to build your cash flow portfolio, but it's a little more of a unique situation because the margins on the cash flow could be so thin that it doesn't make sense for a partner to come in. Or you may have to be in a situation where you got great equity so that you could do a cash out refinance and pull the equity out, get them their money back plus their premium, right? And there's only a select few marketplaces right now where that methodology still exists. Okay. But I say that with respects to flipping houses, because let's just say if you got a deal where, let's say you buy it for 50 grand, you put 50 into it and it's worth 150. Okay. And I know those numbers sound crazy, but they exist in the Midwest, just so y'all know. Okay. So let's just say the lender is going to give you they're going to require that you put 10% down on the purchase, and they're going to cover 100% of the rehab, right? So 10% down on the purchase. So 10% of 50,000 will be 5,000. They're going to cover 100% of the rehab, which is 50,000. So you got to come to that's 5,000 for the down payment. And then you're going to have some ancillary costs. So let's just say you need about $20,000 to not only close the deal, but then to have money for the carrying costs, because you got a mortgage payment while you're going through doing the renovations, all the rest of it. And so at the end of it, you tell this private investor that you're going to give them back their money plus 10%, right? So in 6 months on 20 grand, they make two. So you go and flip the property at 150, you make 30-some $1,000 in profit, you get them back their 20 plus the 2 grand. So that's a way in which, use your imagination, right? Those numbers could go anywhere, but that would allow you to go out and leverage other people's money and do deals with no money out of pocket, build active income, and then take that active income and pivot that and start putting it into your cash flow to where you got better reserves. Does that make sense? I just want to know if that answers your question. So in saying that, right, while I'm waiting on you to respond, the key is understanding why are you doing it. It's so many different rabbit holes now and niches and all the rest of it with real estate to where you can really, you tax liens, you could, do astro flipping, reverse wholesaling, hoteling. It's so many different ways, right? And every day you turn on the internet, it's a new one. And so it's easy to start doing something, and then you look up and you're chasing transactions and don't know why. And you also look up and don't understand why you're not hitting your goals is because you never set them right to begin with. So for me, it's always a constant reminder to start with the end in mind. Really figure out what are you trying to accomplish, and then pick which vehicle best suits the way that you're trying to go. Because again, if active income could be great for debt elimination and it could be great for cash accumulation. So maybe you got a bunch of credit cards that you need some chunk money where you could wholesale and fix and flip and pay that off, right? Or you're trying to stack cash to get to a point of buying rentals and feeling comfortable while doing so. Okay. So any other questions? Any other questions? I got, as I mentioned, I'm hosting an event this week. And so I'm about to prepare for it unless you guys got a couple more questions. And by the way, like share this with somebody. Go back and rewatch it if you got on late. I just want to give everybody a sense of calm and a sense of certainty that you don't have to worry about what other people worry about. That's a choice, right? God got this thing figured out. He left us an instruction manual over 2,000 years ago and was like, hey, if you do this stuff, you're going to be in pretty good shape. If you don't, you're probably going to be in trouble, right? And most of the people that I see running around that's in trouble, they just don't operate under these principles. And everybody's belief system ain't the same, right? But I when I started doing these lives, I was trying to figure it out, right? The premise behind it was to do business coaching, to go live, to be accessible, to be available every Thursday, 2 p.m. for those that may not be in our ecosystem otherwise in one of our coaching programs or whatever, right? And so like anything else new that you never done, you got to figure it out. But over this last week, there's been some conviction about why I should be doing this. And at the end of the day, the banner in the channel is Believers in Business. My podcast is Believers in Business, right? Everything that I do is God led, but in a very practical way that people can take the information and run with it. And which is also scripture, Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it plain for those that read it can run with it. It's not just good enough to tell people stuff if it's not clear and they can't execute on it. And so that's what I'm doing. Every Thursday, I'm going to be here sharing with you guys, practically speaking, biblical principles that I leverage in business and life to be successful. And obviously it's Q&A, so y'all still drive the conversation, but that's what I'm doing, And so tell a friend and tell a friend. Make sure you guys look out and anticipate and set yourself a reminder and notification. I want to help y'all build this year, man. I want to help y'all build this year, but I want to help you build on something that's solid, right? And the only thing that I've known to be solid is God, His Word, His principles, and as much as I've been adopting them, I've been winning as a result. And so I just want to make sure that, again, it's a lot of different ways to show people how to make money, right? But I don't think that there's a lot of different ways to show them how to do it in a way that it was designed for them to do it. And that's two totally different things to me. Okay. The reason why I stopped you thinking about it, I'll start the business. What system do I need to have in place when starting up on little money? When you say the business, are you speaking specifically about real estate still, or are you talking about something else? I just want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Consulting. I like it. I like it. Okay. Um, so here's the thing. Okay. The most important thing that you need to have in place when starting a business is a brand. The most important thing you need to have in place when starting a business is a brand. Okay. And that don't mean, right, brands are built over time, not overnight. But you can start overnight to get it to where you want it to go over time. So for instance, the reason why when I got on social media in 2018, I've been known emphatically, unequivocally as the real estate guy for 7 years, right? Well, 6.5. But then during last year, I felt more led and called to start helping business owners, coaches, consultants, freelancers in this season grow online, become the person so they could do more, have more, right? And as a result of that, then I changed my messaging online. Okay. I went from only talking about real estate to now I'm talking about business principles in general. Well, like there's 30 some people at this challenge that we're hosting this week who never knew me as the real estate guy. They only know me as the business coach. How is that? It's because when you build a brand, you can change products, you can change services, because the brand is the story about the person who represents whatever the service and the product is. So I've got some students that I coached in real estate that then I also started coaching in their consulting and coaching businesses. Why? Because I built the brand synonymous with all the principles that I just talked to y'all about. All the principles that I just talked to y'all about, right? Seeking to serve, going all in, not stopping short, taking care of your people, right? Being a go-giver, all those things. So I know that's a long-winded response to your question, which I'm gonna answer, but I really want to harp on the importance of building a brand so that everything that you do is synonymous with good. So it don't matter what you offer, right? Because maybe the next thing you do with your brand, once you go from the consulting business, could be that you pivot into the real estate business, and people just know that whatever, and forgive me again, I think your name is Val. Whatever Val does is just gold. So like if she's doing it, it must be good, right? Although it's something different than what I see her do, the fact that she's doing it because her brand is good and represents excellence, right? Then it must be good. So I'm interested. So that's the way that you want to build a brand. Okay. How do you do that? By getting your message out there. You got to post content. You got to start talking to people about what it is that you do. And not from see, one of the biggest challenges we have when we make content is thinking that it's about us. You're only a reference in the content. The content may be about you, but it's for them. So if you take that approach, then it becomes less complicated to make content because you realize that it's about you, but for them. It's not about you for you. So you're only using yourself as a point of reference, like the stories that I've told y'all and the losing money. And I'm telling y'all all that for your benefit, not mine. You see what I mean? So as you start to put out your content, you have to think about what are the things that my ideal avatar um, need to know as to how I can help them, right? So Val, that's actually, I'm glad that we're here. Okay. So one of the first things, Val, is getting clear about who's your avatar, right? Because as you say, consulting, consult who, right? Well, consult real estate. Okay. Well, consult who in real estate? Because there's definitely tiers to that, right? And I don't know what your industry is. If you don't mind sharing, I can maybe speak into that even more. But one of the biggest things is getting crystal clear about who it is that you want to help, right? My goal this year is to help business owners, coaches, consultants, freelancers discover their purpose, turn it into profits. That's my goal this year, right? So very specific about who my avatar is. It's some that's out there making money but don't feel purposeful. It's others who not making the money that they would like to make, right? Maybe they over spiritualize and they under monetize. They feel very purposeful in what they're doing, but their business is quickly turned into a charity because it don't pay them. And if it does pay them, it don't pay them regularly. So these are all the types of people that I'm helping with this pivot that I made. And so just getting really clear about your avatar, right? And then after that, start obsessing over what their problems are. And I know you asked about systems, right? But these are the things that need to come far before systems. Picking an industry, getting clear about the avatar, and then obsessing over what their issues are. Now, when I say problem, that's not always a negative connotation. So some people, you may need to move them away from pain. They got the pain of whatever their situation is, right? Maybe the revenue is terrible. Maybe they got leadership issues. They don't know how to build teams. Like I don't know, right? But they got some type of pain point. Others, it could be a potential problem. Like they know that they're making a contribution, but they still feel underutilized. They feel like they're not optimized. And so some people you're going to consult with them and help them see and reach new potential that they didn't know existed. And then the third P is pleasure, right? There's going to be some that their problem is they've done a tremendous amount in life. And they're like, I just sense that I'm supposed to be pouring back into others or, you know, developing more people based on this 30 years that I've had and experience it, excelling in whatever it is that I do. And they're going to need your guidance in helping them to figure out how to help others, right? So we call it a problem, but it's really derived from pain, potential, or pleasure. And so your avatar has one of these three P's going on in their life. And then your job is to then create content around talking about those things. Why? Because as you create content talking about those things, you're signaling to the person that you're talking to. Because as you talk about the things that they're experiencing, then guess what they're going to be? Drawn to your content. Does that make sense, Val? I know that was a lot, but I just want to make sure that I'm giving you the proper context. Because I see it every day. I mean, I'm helping people right now in this challenge this week, my partner David and I, and it's just a ton of business owners and their coaches, consultants. They've been focused on the wrong things. They talking about funnels. It's like funnels. Who's your avatar, right? Or what's your business model? You selling books? You selling um, uh, clothes, coaching, creams? You know what I mean? Put another C in there. Cookies, right? Cookbooks. Like we selling everything. It's like we got to get focused. We got to get crystal clear about what we're doing so that we can go out and execute. Part of the reason why people end up procrastinating because they're not clear. I mean, think about it. If I were to put a if I were to get in a car heading to a destination I'm unfamiliar with, and I put the address in the GPS, I'm probably going to drive with a different level of certainty when I'm going to that location. Would y'all say that's fair? But if I'm in an unfamiliar place, I'm out of state somewhere, and I don't got the address in the GPS, I'm going to be a lot more tentative as I'm trying to feel my way through and see where I'm going. And so that's what happens in business. When you don't have the address and the GPS and you're not clear about where you're going, then you're going to be tentative about posting the content. You're going to be tentative about making your offer. You're going to be tentative about marketing yourself and putting yourself out there. You're going to be tentative when people ask you, so what do you do? And you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be tentative about all those things because you're not very clear about where you're going. So it disallows you to move with a level of conviction and certainty. So that's the part we got to get clear about, because the systems and the processes and all of that will really just be a monthly subscription you pay for and a waste of money if you don't do that first. But let's assume that we do get that in place, because I know you will, Val, especially if you're hanging out with me every week. We're going to get that in place. And then once we got that in place, then yes, we need to talk about what does administration look like for the business of its size, right? Do we need some VAs? Do we need portals where things may be stored, right? Do we need a CMS, a customer management system? And for what reason, right? Are we doing email marketing flows? Are we doing text message flows? Are we doing neither? Are we doing a newsletter on some type of period? So do we need an email marketer? Do we have a sales mechanism in place? So maybe we need a sales mechanism within the customer management system inside of the CMS based on how we're going to go through our client acquisition process. Are we running paid ads that then need to that information be stored somewhere? So the systems are predicated on the size of the business, what the ultimate goals are. But the most important thing is this: after getting clear on your avatar, after getting crystal clear on your offer, and after creating your brand, the most important thing is having leads, right? The most important thing is having leads. Because without leads, you got no sales. Now, you could probably sell people on a very inconsistent basis, right? Like that could be true, but your business also won't grow. There'll be no stability in your business. So you could just randomly sell people. And this is a big problem why many people businesses turn into hobbies, because the income is just too inconsistent. So at some point, in order for you to have a healthy business, you have to have a healthy lead flow. So your marketing is everything. You don't market to sell clients, you market to get leads. Does that make sense? A lot of people think like I market to sell people. You don't market to sell people, you market to get leads. And then as these leads come into your ecosystem and start to understand what it is that you do, how you do it, and they get to know, like, and trust you and spend the 7-11-4 rule with you in 7 hours in 11 different settings on 4 different platforms, and get to know, like, and trust you and decide whether or not you're a good fit to help them with whatever their problem is, then you sell them something and turn into a client if they're a good fit to even be a client. But leads are everything. And that's why I can't understand why most business owners struggle in the area of shooting content. Well, I know why they struggle in the area of shooting content. But what I'm saying is you can't call yourself a business owner and struggle in the area of shooting content. Why? Because you got to have leads. And even if you're running paid traffic, people not going to buy immediately when they see the advertisement. They're going to go and check you out for a little bit longer. So you got to have community-based content there for them when they find you, so that they can find out more about you. If not, they're going to go find a person that got a lot more content than you and find out about them. That's the world we live in now, y'all. It's feast or famine. Either you're going to do the things that are uncomfortable, or you're going to be uncomfortable as a result of not doing the things. That's really good, actually. That's a writer downer. I never said that one before. Either you're going to be uncomfortable and do the things to make you comfortable, or you're going to be uncomfortable as a result of not doing the things. That's not how I said it the first time, did I? Man, who was paying attention? Did somebody hear it the way I said it the first time? The way I said it the first time was good. It's real good. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe come back. I appreciate you, Val. Val said, "Great session." Alex said, "You snapped." Well, while I was snapping, I wish you'd have been writing because I sure wish I'd have knew what I said. I wish I'd. Oh, you know what? This YouTube, I can go back and watch the recording. See, shooting content, right? Because I'm shooting content, I get to go back and hear what I said. You see what I'm saying? That's why this is important. Just cut a camera. By the way, look, I'm shooting content while I'm shooting content. How about that? I know. I just scared somebody. It was like, oh my God, you got two cameras on over here. I'm shooting content while I'm shooting content. Why? Because we're gonna have fun with this. Who knows? We're gonna use some for clips, we're gonna use others for other stuff. Val said, I'll have my things together next week. That's what I'm talking about, sister. I look forward to it. Let me see it. Next week, am I in Vegas? What's next week? What's the date next week? Oh, no. Yeah. I'll be here front and center next week. Same time, same channel. And look, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and leave us comments. What did you think about this? Was it helpful? And also, we'll be doing another poll to understand what is it that you would like me to talk about specifically next week. I love to get y'all input. You know why? Because the content ain't about me. It's for you. See what I just did right there? It's for you. So it's the same thing. And I look forward to it. I look forward to the growth. I thank you for being vulnerable and asking your questions because that's how you grow is by asking questions. ESD Exclusive said this was great. I appreciate the feedback. And yeah, I just want to build with y'all this year, man, and utilize me because I'm going to tell you, things change, right? So I just know I've made this commitment this year. I'm going to stick to that, but things change. And so leverage me while you got me. And, I do my very best to serve in any way that I can. Send this to somebody that you think can benefit from it, please, right? We got to be go-givers. We got to share. And I'm out. I'll see y'all next week. God bless. All right.